My 3 words are clarity, reach, and zest.
Someone once told me that where you stand today is because of where you've been in the past. We each have a unique opportunity to use our past experiences to create the very best versions of ourselves, even if those past experiences are painful. Hi, everyone. I'm Heather Vickery, and you've tuned in to the Brave Files podcast. Welcome. I'm so thrilled to have you here with me. Today's guest is Diann Wingert. She is a neurodiverse entrepreneur who decided later in life to leave a thriving psychotherapy practice to become a coach. And this was at a time in her life where all of her friends were talking about retirement. This late in life career change forced Diann to take a second look at herself and to step into her authenticity and finally find her own happiness. I love this conversation. We had a great time. I appreciate Diann said, Heather, you always challenge me. So you'll have to take a listen all the way through to see the ways that I challenge Diann, who quite frankly just isn't the kind of woman who gets challenged very often. So I enjoyed that. But some other highlights from the conversation include the fact that we are so much stronger and healthier when we allow our relationship with failure to be a conscious decision that everything is all just one big experiment. And this powerful notion of forgiveness. We talk a lot about forgiveness in the Brave Files podcast. I talk about it in my book, Fuck Fearless. I talk about it in my weekly live shows, the Brave in Action live show every Wednesday. I love to talk about forgiveness. And Diann says, just this wonderful approach on it. Diann says that the thing that people most misunderstand about forgiveness is that you're not letting other people off the hook when you forgive them. That's not what forgiveness is all about. What's actually happening is that you're letting yourself off the hook. And you deserve to be off the hook. Oh, and I just learned that today, the day that we're releasing this episode, happens to be Diann's birthday. So happy birthday, brave lady. Buckle up, friends. This is going to be a fun ride. Let's get started. This is Heather Vickery, and you're listening to The Brave Files, stories from people living courageously. When we choose bravely in big and small ways, it powerfully elevates our lives. I hope these stories connect with you and encourage you to embrace bravery in every possible way, day after day. Together, we can build a movement of courageous living that enriches both our lives and our communities. And if you enjoy the show, I ask you to please share it with others. Maybe think of someone who you want to choose bravely right alongside you. Thanks for tuning in. Now here's the show. Okay, folks, imagine being at a stage in your life where most people are hunkering down, resting on all of their past accomplishments and looking at retiring because they have worked their ass off to get where they are. You've earned that rest, right? Well, today's guest, Diann Wingert, decided not to embrace that rest. Instead, she moved from her highly successful private psychotherapy practice and decided to close up shop and go back for more education and training to become a coach and start an entirely new second business. Diann is an expert in women with ADHD. That might be me. And the mental health challenges of entrepreneurship for females. I feel all of this. She says she's also a Peloton enthusiast, a coffee lover, and she appreciates sarcasm as the highest form of humor. I suspect y'all might get a little taste of that today. Diann, welcome to the Brave Files.
I have so been looking forward to this.
Thank you so much for being here with us. I didn't mention also that you are a podcaster as well. What's your show?
My podcast is The Driven Woman, and it is specially for female and female identifying solopreneurs who are not quite crushing their goals yet.
There you go. I was a guest on Diann's show, although, sometimes I'm crushing my goals and then I set new goals and then I'm not quite crushing them yet. So I feel like that's a never ending circle if you actually want to continue to be a thriving entrepreneur. Is you hit your goals and then you set higher targets and you start over and
level up
and do it again. Right. Yeah. All right. So Diann, I've met lots of people who have quit their day job or their corporate job and started something else or gone out on their own. And I do think that's super, super brave. What so fascinates me about your story is that you chose to do that at a point in your life where, as you said, lots of people are like, well, I'm done with this work shit. I paid my dues. Like, I just want to chill and rest. And so what led you to leaving a thriving medical practice, psychotherapy practice, and deciding to go into coaching?
I guess I could say safely, Heather, that I got a taste for reinvention and resiliency from being laid off from a corporate career, then
Mm.
going into a nonprofit career and being harassed to the point where it was a jump or be pushed. Then I started my own psychotherapy practice. And after about 7 years of doing that, I realized that I had moved to a different place in my own life. And I wanted to shift the conversation from problems to possibilities. And the
Ooh.
coaching role is much more aligned with possibilities. I think I became a little bit too impatient with my therapy clients to like get over it and get on with it. And I realized I've outgrown this role. I have actually
Yeah.
outgrown this role, and I need to be working with different people who want to move at a different pace towards different outcomes.
I really appreciate that. And it's good to recognize that therapy is so important. I don't know. I think we all need a therapist. But that is a different pace and that coaching is more specifically designed to be action oriented. I love that, from problems to possibilities. That's really speaks to me because we have problems, right? And we deserve to sit with them and to take them apart and to understand them and to acknowledge them. And therapy is all about taking you through that. Coaching is about, now what do we want to do with it? Now what? Okay, now you know this. Let's do something. What feels different other than that? What feels different to you about, because a lot of people are like, oh, well, I always feel like I have a therapy session after we coach. And that's normal because
Hmm.
you've dug things up and you feel like you've gone through the ringer, and then you come out and go, okay, I learned these things. What feels specifically different for you as a coach versus a therapist?
This is such an important question, and I'm grateful to have the opportunity to address it because a lot of people would actually think therapy, coaching, they're both helpers. It's not a big difference. There's a huge difference. In fact, such a big difference that I really underestimated the personal transformation I
Mm,
needed to go through when moving from one role to the other. Therapy, the goal is insight and healing.
mm,
Coaching, the goal is transformation and change.
yeah.
The pace I've mentioned is slower with therapy. You really do need to move at the pace that the client is able and willing to go at. But there's also sort of an unspoken agreement that when you're in therapy, there's an unspoken agreement between the client and the therapist that there's something wrong, that there's something
Mm,
damaged, that there's something broken, and that you need to recover from that to get back to your sort of normal baseline. And then maybe we can talk about going from there. There is no such assumption with coaching. Now, that's not to say that there aren't people that feel broken in some way who are
yeah,
hiring coaches,
yeah.
but the expectation of what you should be able to tolerate and what is necessary is totally different. I'll give you a perfect example. I do a very thorough assessment at the beginning before I invite someone to work with me because some people need therapy and don't want it. And I don't want to accidentally try to coach someone who would actually be better served by a therapist. Even though I am one, I'm not doing that now.
Yeah.
So that would be a little bit of a slippery slope. So when someone who is interested in working with me as a coach starts to tell me their story, they tell me I need to hear the background. They say, well, let me give you a little history. And I say, not necessary. Well, let me just tell you, I just want to give you some context. It's not nearly as important as you think it is. That's very, very different because becoming overly attached to our stories, I believe, is what keeps us stuck and prevents us from moving forward.
Mm,
So when we can just kind of know that no matter what has happened, and listen, I have been through tons of trauma, abuse, loss, all kinds of things. I've done my work in therapy, but I also came to understand at some point you need to be willing and able to release your attachment to what it means that those things happen before you can actually move forward in your life. Some people, it takes a really long time to get there. And
Yeah,
if you're pushing someone faster than they care to go, they're going to be traumatized. So it's a
absolutely.
very different approach, different expectations, and different assumptions.
Yeah, it is. And there are all sorts of different coaches and different types of coaches with different approaches for a reason.
Yes.
I tend to be, and this has come up recently with a coach that I regularly collaborate with. She is super results driven, short term, turnaround, get it done, show me the results. And I am not. Not that my clients don't experience great transformation and results, but I recognize that this is a little bit more of a slow burn
Mm-hmm.
for some people in some stages. And what I love about the coaching industry is that we can really complement one another.
Mm-hmm.
And clients can move through different coaching experiences based on where they are in their lives or in their businesses, because we offer different things. Even if we're doing very similar stuff, we offer different things. And I love that. How did you become an expert in women with ADHD?
The old-fashioned way, because I have it myself.
How old were you when you were diagnosed with
Oh my
ADHD?
goodness, you won't believe this. This is actually a very amusing. It used to be kind of a cringeworthy story, but I changed the way I think about it. I passed on ADHD to all three of my children from two different marriages before realizing who's the common denominator. And not only that, Heather, I actually did my master's thesis on whether ADHD persists into adulthood before anyone even thought so. So I could have been the grandmother of adult ADHD. But, and this, I was in grad school at a time when literally the only people being identified with ADHD were squirmy little boys who couldn't sit still, and girls were not being identified, and no adults were being identified. And here I was in grad school at UCLA working with these squirmy, wormy little boys. And then I started meeting some of their parents. And I thought, excuse me, I know, professor, you are the expert, but I kind of have a sneaking suspicion that this doesn't go away. Oh, yes, we know that it does. And I'm like, would it be okay if I do my research on this? Because I think you're wrong. And
Mhm.
I even wrote in my thesis under the section researcher bias that I have a child with ADHD. Only one of them had been identified at that time. And I strongly identify with many of these traits myself. Well, I finish grad school. I go out and start my career. I completely forget all about ADHD and I go on my merry way. Then years later, my daughter, my third child, is identified in early adulthood. And I'm like, I did not get myself officially diagnosed until just 5 years ago after diagnosing hundreds of women who saw me in my therapy practice, who, by the way, came to me with an inaccurate diagnosis of something else. So I know this stuff. But you want to know what's most fascinating is that the traits that when they cause impairment, because you
Mhm.
don't get a mental health diagnosis unless you have both traits, which we call symptoms, and impairment as a result of those symptoms. Otherwise, you have traits. And do you know what you call someone who has the traits without the impairment? You call them an entrepreneur. Hello. I'm just saying. And that's why I work with entrepreneurs, whether they've ever been identified with ADHD or not,
Mm.
because the way someone who has this type of wiring operates in the world makes them beautifully suited to entrepreneurship. In fact, that's where many of them end up.
Okay, so let's talk about that. Why? What makes them beautifully suited to be an entrepreneur? And how can having ADHD be an asset in this scenario? Says a similar boat. My daughter was diagnosed a couple of years ago, and I see so many traits in myself and feel like at this point I just have worked my whole life to figure out how to work with it. But
Yes.
there's no diagnosis. But I'm curious to hear your thoughts on that.
Well, this is the magic, because here's the thing. I think if you're a daisy, daisies are basically weeds. They can survive anywhere. But orchids need something special. Okay. So maybe we are the orchids, and we need to position ourselves in environments that are very hospitable to the way we are. So, for example, a lot of people with ADHD become entrepreneurs either because they cannot tolerate the constraints of the workplace, or because they have so
That's
many.
me.
I'm going to be hearing all kinds of bells and whistles and ding, 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 ding. Actually, so many women that I have interviewed for my podcast never even considered they might have ADHD until they met me, and then after we finish recording, they're like, "Can we talk?" And this is because here's the thing: if you felt impaired by these things, you would probably be on some kind of medication and seeing a therapist. But you became an entrepreneur, so the traits I'm talking about, to be very specific: low tolerance for boredom, high tolerance for risk, lots of energy, lots of creativity, many ideas that we're willing to act on, even if they're not fully formed, resiliency, because when you get an idea and you act on it before you've had a chance to think it through, that is called impulsivity. But if you're an entrepreneur and you do this minimum viable concept thing, you get an idea, you think there might be a market for this, I got to give it a shot. Your curiosity compels you to do so. So you throw something together and you act on it. If it works, you keep going. If it doesn't, you move on. Now, our relationship with failure has to be a very conscious decision that it's just an experiment.
Yes.
Because if everything you do has to be perfect and you have to get it right and you have to see it all the way through before you do it, you are not going to survive as an entrepreneur, because the opportunity cost of waiting means someone else did it first and you missed your chance. So low tolerance for boredom, high tolerance for making mistakes, experimenting, failure, the ability to live with a lot of ambiguity, like this might work or it might not. Fall down, get up, fall down, get up, fall down, get up, and not make it mean that you're a big old loser, but that you're figuring it out. This is what I mean about being suited to this.
Yeah.
And just having constantly so many creative ideas that if you do have a struggle, it's because you can't decide which one to do and put all the others away. Most of the entrepreneurs that hire me literally say, I have 3 businesses or 4 businesses. And then as we discuss, they don't have a team, and none of them is actually a full-fledged business. They're like projects.
Yeah.
You cannot kick 6 soccer balls down the field as effectively as you can kick 1 ball 6 times. So we're going to put all the others away for now. They're going in the idea parking lot.
And that's so
We're going to
hard
pick
for
one.
some
I
people
know,
to do.
but it's the only way. And I tell them, first of all, you can either trust me and let me lead you, or you can decide you're going to prove me wrong. Either way, I don't care, but we're going to pick one. And I will even help you pick a good one, because I have helped 2 previous husbands start a business. They never would even thought of it, hadn't been for me. So we're going to pick one, and we're going to focus, and we're going to be consistent, and we're going to not let ourselves be distracted. And then when you reach the point where someone else can do it, then we can bring the next one back. And they're like, are you sure? And I'm like, hey, it's your business. You can do whatever you want. But it's that constraint. That's what we hate so much. And I would also say the other thing that I call the unholy trinity, what I see a lot of, especially with female and female identifying entrepreneurs, is procrastination, perfectionism, and people pleasing.
Yeah.
We have got to get ahead of that shit.
Yeah.
You got to get ahead of that shit, or you will just be a person of immense potential who goes nowhere.
Damn. Mic drop,
Sorry.
sister. No, I mean, yeah, I feel that. And, to remind folks, you can have all of these multi-passions, but you're right. I always say we can't, I'm anti-multitasking, because we can't do anything 100% if we're trying to do more than one thing at a time. But that doesn't mean that the rest of those things aren't worthy or valuable. You're just putting them on the shelf. And when and if it's the right time to go and introduce them, or you phase out of one thing and into another, or you're in a position where you do have a support team and you can add something else on and it makes sense. So it's not going away. It's just, you're just zeroing in on your focus. After your ADHD diagnosis, how did it change the way you ran your life and your business?
I realized that all of the negative attributions that I was making about myself could be converted into a deep acceptance and understanding of the fact that I'm neurodivergent. These are not character traits. These are actually the way my brain works.
Yeah.
And, because I'm lazy, I'm unmotivated, I'm scattered, I'm flaky, I'm this, I'm that.
You
know,
treat yourself like shit because of all those stories.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you also internalize all the negative feedback you get from other people who expect you to be the way you are. So I literally systematically deconstructed all of my negative self-talk, all of my negative attributions, and converted them to positives. And I made a firm commitment to myself, Heather, that from this point forward, I will not spend one more moment of this precious human life hating myself. That is off the table for good.
Okay. And is it really like, all right, Diann, real talk time. I love that. I love that commitment. I love that you've seen the value in that and that you want that for yourself. Same. I get it. And so many people that I meet on this show, listeners, clients, audience members, they feel that. They know it. They want it. But sometimes those things creep up.
Fuck yeah.
It feels okay. So that's it. You're like, not one more moment, but they come.
No.
But now you know how to shut them down.
No, I listen. I actually had to let a client go a couple of weeks ago because I realized there was a mismatch between expectations and reality, and I was starting to become resentful, and this was just not going to have a good outcome. And so I let this person go. Now, I doubted myself. It's like, why did I accept this person from the get-go? I had some pink flags then. Why did I let myself do this? So I could either go down the path of why, or could another coach have turned this situation around without having to release it? Am I giving up? Am I opting out? Am I being, a weenie about this? Am I, So it's not that these thoughts never crop up. They do. Of course they do.
I just need listeners to know that. I knew that was your answer because human beings.
Yeah, it's like, hey, listen, regretfully, I'm a human for life. But here's the difference. First of all, I know deeply that all thoughts are optional. I have profound respect for neuroscience and the fact that I have decades worth of trauma still buried in there. I have worked very hard in therapy, on a spiritual path, coaching, self-help, all the things. But in moments where I feel threatened, where I feel traumatized, or where I'm simply not taking impeccably good care of myself.
Ding, ding, ding.
I will have those. I think of them kind of like cracks in the foundation. And then you're going to have a little reverberation sort of back to your old patterns and habits. The difference is I allow myself to have self-pity, victim mindset, or feeling like ass about myself. I allow it for a little bit.
Yes.
Because I don't think bypassing any legitimate emotions is healthy.
Yes.
I don't indulge it or embrace it or cling to it the way I used to.
We can't
No, it's like,
judge it.
no, fuck no. It's like, listen, I'm human and this kind of sucked. And of course, I'm having a moment. And if I can't get myself out of it in a reasonably short time on my own, usually I need to do something physical, get on the Peloton, go for a hike, play with the dogs, because I get out of my head and into my body and it's easier for me to process.
Yeah.
Then I will speak to someone who knows me well
Yeah.
and is really honest with me, that I trust and respect. And I'll say, I need to run a situation by you because I'm doubting myself right now.
So you bring in what I call the personal board of directors to say, and you
Indeed.
probably are really thoughtful about, depending on what space
Yes.
in your life, who is it that I'm going to lean in on for this? It's so important, especially you're
Yep.
working with solopreneurs and entrepreneurs, to know that just because you can do it all doesn't mean you should do it all. Like, we need other people.
And you know what? You're reminding me of the question you asked me earlier about differences between being a therapist and being a coach. I had to unlearn that very well developed sense of responsibility for other people, that sort of almost like a caretaking, because that intrudes on a healthy coaching relationship when you start having the desire to take care of the other person. You
Yeah.
are disrespecting them because then they can't fully own their outcomes. So,
Yeah. And that's
yeah.
so important too. That's the difference in, coaches and strategists, is this notion that as a coach, it is not our job to give people the answer. It is our job to guide them towards finding the answer.
Mhm.
And as strategists, so I know people who are like, I could never coach. They're like, do this fucking thing right now and it'll be fine. And that may be what folks need in that moment. But most of the time, the buy-in comes when clients go, oh, this is the thing. This is the thing that I need or want or care the most about or am willing to walk over hot coals for. You got to buy in, man.
And you know what? We are both parents and parents of several children. And I am very grateful that I spent a decade as a single parent of 3 kids, because one of the things I learned is I needed to choose to stop giving advice to my kids, even when they asked for it, even when they implored me to give
Ooh,
it.
I feel that in all my parts.
Yeah, and you know why? You know why? Because I realized it was a very comfortable space for me to be like, the shell answer man. Like, you got a problem, I got an answer, like I'll hook you up. But I realized at some point, if I continue to nurture this dependency, I'm robbing them of the most important thing for them to actually move forward in a confident way in adulthood. They know damn well what I'm capable of. They need to know what they're
They're
capable of. And
capable
if I
of.
keep swooping in with all the answers, I'm preventing that from having the opportunity to happen.
Yeah.
So I
One of the
just learned how to
hardest,
shut the fuck up. And it's
there you
hard.
go. One of the hardest things that I've learned to do, and to be fair, I learned it the hard way and have not always been successful at it and have paid the repercussion prices of it,
Same,
is to
same, same.
say to everyone in my personal life outside of a coaching scenario, would you like me to help you problem solve this? Or do you just
Mm.
want me to listen?
It's an impeccably good question.
Because people like us we want to fix it. I'm a fixer. I'm a
Yeah,
doer and I'm a
I'm a
fixer.
creative problem solver. Makes
And
me
when you're
happy.
with your kids in particular, you just don't want to see them hurting. But you're right. I use the shoe tying analogy all the time. Like, when your kids are first learning to tie their shoes, it's really frustrating, and you could do it so much fucking faster than they could do it. And you could be out the door and we won't be late for school and work. But also, we don't want to be tying their shoes when they're in high school, and they need to learn how to do it. So it's the same thing, but on this much bigger, grander scale of problem solving, of stepping back.
Takes a lot of self-awareness and a lot of
Consequence.
discipline.
Yeah. And we're going to fuck it up. Listeners, if you are in this boat and you have kids, like, you are going to fuck it up. The best you can
Sure.
do is own it. And I have said to my kids, you're right. I should not have tried to problem solve that for you. I will do better to be a good listener next time. And are you able to forgive me?
That's
I ask
so
for
freaking
forgiveness a lot.
powerful. No, it's so powerful. My kids are all grown and flown, and we have a Zoom call every Tuesday night for about an hour and a half.
Oh, I
And
love that you do that.
it's so great. And I think one of the things that's so magical about it is that I worried so much when the kids were growing up, especially during my single parenting years. I worried so much that I wasn't doing it right. I wasn't doing it good enough, that I was making so many mistakes. Now we can openly talk about those things. And I can say, I really wish I had known about my own ADHD. And I really wish I had have understood the way it shows up and manifests in each of you, which is very different,
Yeah.
because I could have parented you differently. One of my clients now has ADHD, and she's wondering whether, in fact, she should have kids because of that. So I just shared with her, if I had known beforehand, I would have been such a different parent.
Yeah.
I would not have chosen not to have kids. I would have
Of course.
absolutely chosen to have kids anyway, but I would have brought that understanding of how to parent a child who's different
Yeah.
to the table, which is super powerful.
I mean, that's the best we can do, is when we know better, we do better as
Yeah.
much as we can. And we're still going to make mistakes. And that's the space that I've just tried to really live in, is I'm going to make mistakes. But you have the right to kindly tell me I've made a mistake.
Mm-hmm.
And I will listen. But you can't be an asshole, right? I'm not inviting people to be assholes to me, even my own children, but you can tell me I'm wrong. You can tell me that I have stepped out of bounds with you, all of that. It's really, really, really powerful. You said something a minute ago, which the idea just popped in my head. And I was so tickled when you said it. You mentioned gratitude. What kind of role does gratitude have in your life?
It's huge. I used to have a very formal practice, a gratitude practice, but I've been a practicing Buddhist for the last 15 years, and it's really my orientation towards the world.
Mm,
The fundamentals of Buddhism are basically living life in a mindful way, which
yeah.
is to say, being open to experience as it arises, being curious about all experience as it's happening, and being non-judgmental about what's happening. So my
Yeah.
goal in life is equanimity. Equanimity basically means I am here for it, no matter what it is, and I am
Yes.
grateful for all of it. I mean, if I had complete equanimity, I could actually receive the news of a cancer diagnosis with the same grounded calm as news that my launch just made $100,000 on the first day. Like, to be able to receive life on life's terms, moment by moment, with openness, curiosity, and lack of judgment. That is what I work for. Fail every fucking day.
Thank you for that. I'm like,
Fail
because I'm going
hard.
to be pissed if I get a cancer diagnosis.
Fail hard. But to actually be it, because, and that to me, Heather, that's where the gratitude comes in.
Yeah. No, I
I
agree.
was adopted by an abusive, compulsively adopting family.
Oh, geez. I'm sorry.
Really pretty fucked up. But all the things that happened, and I've been through a couple of divorces, and I was raped, and I mean, I've had all kinds of experiences, right? But to be able to say at this point in my life, because of the way I think and because of the way I show up for life and life shows up for me, I truly choose to be grateful for all of it, because it has developed things in me that I'm so happy to have, and I never would have gotten any other way. I'm not saying it's all magical and sunshine and rainbows. A lot of life, frankly, sucks ass. But I think the deal is 50-50. 50% is magical and 50% is awful. And if you can have equanimity about all of it, you can be grateful for every single experience you
Right.
have. That's what I aspire for. And yes, I fall down every day and I get back up and I try it again.
Yeah.
That's the life I want to create.
I don't know about the 50-50 awful, 50-50 wonderful. I'm going to have to sit with that and think about it. But I do know that we don't have a choice in being victimized. but we do have a choice in being and remaining a victim and allowing someone or something else to have that mental and emotional control and power over us. And I do know firsthand that when we look at every situation and say, what is in this for me? Because we can just be mad.
Yep.
But if we say, what is in this for me? What do I now know? Or what will I never do again? Or what can I try now that I wouldn't have considered before? And look at that as the win and show gratitude towards that and for that. I actually think if we can do that, our odds are a lot better than 50-50. I think we can
You know
be
what I love? I
happier
love
a
so
lot more
much
than
that
that.
you every conversation we have, you challenge me. I really
You're not
I
used to that either, are you? You have this sort of energy where people just kind of let you lead.
no, people say I have big dick energy, so they usually don't try to, usually don't try to challenge me. But I love that you do, because it always leads to really contemplative conversation and a lot of respect. I think it is out of respect that you challenge, and it is out of respect that I receive it as a challenge instead of poking the bear here. It's really, really awesome though. And you may be right about the better than 50%, but I absolutely agree. I talk a lot about victimization versus a victim mindset. And also about forgiveness. I think,
So much.
forgiveness and gratitude, because I think the thing that people most misunderstand about forgiveness is that you're not letting the other person off the hook. You are letting
That's
you
right.
off the hook,
That's
and you
exactly right.
deserve to be off the frickin' hook. The sooner the
Yes.
better.
It is a gift you give yourself. It's all about you. It's all about what and who takes up residency in your heart, mind, and soul. 100%. And it is probably the most difficult life lesson I ever see anyone experience. But the freedom that comes from embracing forgiveness is like no other. I love that. That seems like a really nice segue to ask you really my favorite question. Most of the questions in these interviews week after week flow and they're related to whoever I'm chatting with. But I always ask this one, and I love it so much. Diann, how do you like to celebrate?
Well, it's not an original idea, but I got the idea from The Artist Way, Julia Cameron,
Excellent.
in
Yeah.
The Artist Date. So I like to celebrate by taking myself on a play date for one.
Yes.
It has to be just me. It usually requires at least 2 to 4 hours. And some of my favorites are taking myself for a sunrise hike with a champagne brunch that I bring in a pack.
I
A
love
spa
that.
day is also nice, but I also like to give myself a one-day class doing something new and something challenging and maybe a little scary. 3 of the favorites that I've given myself: skydiving was one, fencing lesson was another, and an improv class was the third. I like to reward myself with things like that. The spa day is nice, but for me, celebration is more active than passive. So I
Love
like
that.
to do something big.
Yeah, thank you for that. That's not necessarily one we've heard in that way. We've heard little things. I do little things that pump my fists in the air, or a dance party or a walk. But this idea of celebrating by learning, by allowing yourself to experience something new is so lovely. And that's why I love this question, because when we celebrate, we have more to celebrate. We open ourselves up for more. Celebration leads to gratitude. Gratitude leads to celebration. All of those things are interchangeable, and they support one another. And I hear people all the time who say to me, "Oh, I'm not so good at celebrating." And what they mean when they say that is that they constantly push on to the next thing. This is done, move on to the next. This is done, move on to the next. And I am saying, hold on. Stop for a second and notice this moment, this thing you've worked hard to achieve. But I can almost always get folks to recognize that there are some habits they have that they hadn't considered to be celebration. And so in my endeavor to revolutionize this term of bravery, to bring everyday bravery into the world, it's the same with celebration, because when you know you're doing it, you do more of it.
I totally agree. And I also think it is a very challenging thing for a lot of people, especially high ability, high achieving, driven women like you and I,
Mhm.
because we expect accomplishments of ourselves and we don't recognize that they should be celebrated. I want to point out one thing. Rick Hansen, who is a psychologist and a neuropsychologist and also a Buddhist practitioner, has a practice called taking in the good, where he teaches people how to hold on a little longer to those celebratory moments because of the brain's
Mm,
negativity bias. We pay a lot more attention to our
yes.
failures, and we are not in the habit of really holding on to the happiness, to the celebration, to the magical moment, so that we give our brain some practice in holding on to them a little better.
Oh, I love that. That's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. We're going to put that in the
Yeah.
show notes, y'all, so you can access that. And maybe that'll be my mindfulness tip that I take with me after this conversation is, let me just hold on to this for one more second. Let me just feel this full bodied for
Mhm.
one more second. Thank you for that gift, Diann. I love
Yeah,
it.
absolutely.
Diann, what is your favorite charitable organization to support?
Can I give you 2?
You can.
Okay. My husband and I have been long-term supporters of the Nature Conservancy because we love
Okay.
the outdoors, and Habitat for Humanity because there has been a lot of homelessness in both Portland and Los Angeles where we have lived, and that's something that we feel strongly about and continue to donate to.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing them with us. We will
Mhm.
put all of their information in our show notes. We have a Giving is Good section. You guys get to know them. If you don't know them, check them out. However, you can support whatever that looks like for you. Listen, the world is a fucking mess right now. The whole world. And the best we can do is show up for one another really intentionally with heartfelt compassion and willingness to put ourselves aside to support sometimes. And that's why I asked that question. And that's why it's important to me. And we show lots of different ways that we can get involved. So thank you for sharing them with us.
Thank you for asking.
Diann, can you share your 3 words one last time?
My 3 words are clarity, reach, and zest.
And I see those. They're lovely. That's one of my favorite things is we ask you to share your 3 words at the beginning of the conversation. And then I always like to see, can we visualize that from the conversation? And sometimes we get to the end and I'll say to people, "Well, now tell me why you picked that word." But these 3 words, clarity, reach, and zest. Yes. Yes, those are your words. They're lovely. And I am so grateful that you took the time to be here with us. How can folks find you if they would like to connect or learn more?
If you like my voice and what I say with it, you should definitely come check out the Driven Woman podcast. And my newest social media account is actually Instagram. So come follow me at Coach Diann Wingert, and that's spelled with 2 N's and no E's.
Two N's in the Diann and only one in the G or in the Wingert.
Let's not make this too complicated.
Yeah, you're Diann. They would miss that. Diann. Excellent. Thank you so much for being here. I'm super grateful. This was a fantastic conversation.
It sure was. Thank you, Heather.
Wow, folks, there are a lot of different ways to move through life, and honoring who we are and how we are naturally made and using that for us and finding out what is for us in all of life situations just makes it a whole hell of a lot more fucking fun. So let's be happy. Let's find what's happy. There's a lot of stuff that's not happy. Choose for you who and how you want to be in the world. This is Heather Vickery reminding you today and every day to go out and choose bravely. Bye now. Hey, friends, I want to share something really exciting with you. We already know you enjoy listening to podcasts because you're listening to this one, but I'm also betting you enjoy audiobooks. And hey, listen, if you don't already enjoy audiobooks, then it's time to check them out. That's why I'm really excited to share Libro.fm with you. They are an incredible new platform for listening to audiobooks. And by choosing Libro.fm over other audiobook services, you are supporting a local bookstore of your choice and investing in your local community. Libro.fm offers over 150,000 audiobooks via their primary platform, which, by the way, they built with love and from scratch because they're a small business also. They even offer bookseller recommendations for great audiobook options. You can sign up right now via www.vickeryandco.com/LibroFM. That's vickeryandco.com/LIBROFM. And when you do, you'll get one free audiobook of your choice, and the proceeds will go to your favorite local bookstore. Now, check what I just said there. You're going to get a free book, and the proceeds are still going to go to your local bookstore because Libro.fm makes sure that their booksellers get paid even when they give a promo to customers. I've listened to over 20 audiobooks this year alone. I especially love listening to memoirs read by the author, and it feels great knowing that all of my purchases support my local bookstore, The Book Table, in Oak Park, Illinois. Libro.fm. The same audiobooks, the same price, but a completely different story. Check them out right now at vickeryandco.com/LibroFM. Have you ever thought about starting a podcast? Maybe you've had this thought and then quickly shut it down because who has the time? Or you don't know how, or gosh, it just all seems too hard. If you have something to share with the world, we want to encourage you to get your message out. The world needs to hear it. Did you know that 50% of all homes are podcast fans? If you've ever wondered about having your own podcast or how it can increase your business or get your message across, then please join me and the other experts from the Podcast Power Academy for our monthly free Q&A session. It's called So You Want to Start a Podcast? This casual live conversation will help you understand how podcasting can be a great decision, why now is the best time to get started, and how to get into action with it. Visit podcastpoweracademy.com to learn more. You've been listening to The Brave Files, stories of people living courageously. To learn more about the show, find our show notes and full episode transcripts, or to get some great bonus content, visit thebravefilespodcast.com. And we would love to know what you think of the show. You can give us a call at 312-646-0205. Let us know your thoughts on the episode, the show in general, or maybe share with us how you're out choosing bravely. This episode is brought to you by Vickery & Co. Success Coaching. Coaching that helps you maintain a life well lived and a business well run. Learn more at vickeryandco.com. Our music was created and produced in a custom collaboration with Matt Lewis from ML Creative Consulting, a boutique firm dedicated to helping clients identify their unique sound and amplify their brand with custom delivered soundtracks. We couldn't do any of this without our extraordinary audio engineer, Andrew Olson. Learn more about him and check out his work at findandrewolson.com. And special thanks to everyone on Team Brave, from our producers, associate producers, copy editors, writers, and support team. Special thanks to Molly, Mary, Kim, Sabra, and Sabrina. I'm your host and executive producer, Heather Vickery. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll talk to you next week.